Hi, I'm Ben and welcome to my book corner. Today we're looking at The Reaper Man, possibly my favourite of all the Discworld books. This is the second Discworld book to focus largely on death as the primary character, and the 11th Discworld book that was released overall. And this was released way back in 1991. So as always, we shall look at the story, followed by the world building, the characters, the writing style, and we shall end on my final thoughts. So let's just jump straight into the story. So the first thing to note is that this book precedes Hogfather, which we've already looked at, and is the book set directly before that within the series of books about death. In this story, the auditors make their appearance and have decided that due to his development of a personality, then Death is no longer suitable for his job as the Reaper. They go to the death of all Azrael, of which all other deaths are but a facet of, and he agrees to retire Death. As a result, Death is given time, something he has never had before, and time which he can then spend. He goes off into the world, find something to do until he is reaped. He ends up on a farm and acts very much as a reaper of corn, as it turns out. And he learns a little bit about what it means to be human, having never experienced things like hunger, sleep, dreams, fear, all that sort of stuff. Now, as a side effect of Death not being around to do his duty, there is a build-up of life force within the world, and this is causing multiple strange and inexplicable phenomena, which is largely explored through the antics of the wizards in the city of Ankh-Morpork. After the discovery of various baubles lying around the city, and the fact that one of their brethren has just died and has just decided to get back up again, called Windle Poons, you have what can only be described as an absurd series of events, from fighting compost heaps, figuring out what truly preys on cities. This story is a lot less ridiculous than it sounds when you really take a step back and look at it, as it explores themes of capitalism, it explores themes of what it means to be human, and actually what is a soul, and how a soul parts to the person. It's a good story. It's very much a character growth story, and although this is a story that Death is advertised as the primary character, you spend probably slightly more time with Windle Poons and the rest of the wizards at the Unseen University, and the hijinks they get up to while they try and figure out what these sort of snow globes are that are wandering around, which eventually turn out to be something far, far more sinister, and an interesting take on the idea of out-of-town shopping centres. Really, really good. Love this story. Well, as I've already said, it's possibly my favourite of the Discworld book, so this is no great surprise. So, in terms of world building, I touched on this a little bit in Hogfather. The individual world building from book to book tends to be quite sparse, but as you read the books overall, it just feels like a living, breathing world. And it's quite hard to put a finger onto why it feels like such a living, breathing world, other than through the characters, and that's what drives this. But in terms of pure world building itself, you get to meet various different facets of Ankh-Morpork. The wizards, who we've already spoken about in Hogfather, continue to be absolutely absurd and deranged, but they make sense within the world. Much like the undead that you meet, you get sort of snippets of how undead and the different sorts of species are treated, and how magic is seen. And then you've got the world of the Ramtops, where most of the story is set for Death, and how out of time it feels in many regards. You know, they talk about how important smuggling is to the local economy, for example. There's a distrust of technology. Everything's so far away, and it helps the world feel so big and so vast, and so alive in a way that very, very few books do. But there's no specific thing that you point at and say, it's that. I'll always say this about any of the Discworld books. The world building is very much a passive thing that goes on in all of them, and the more you read, the more alive the world feels because you can draw from the other books. But even on its own, this feels like a fully fleshed out world, even if the actual detail isn't there as much as you'd see in a lot of other books. So on to the characters, and once again, there's a lot of characters in this book, and what Pratchett excels at is the personalities rather than the character itself. You see this most prevalently around the Wizards of the Unseen University once again, these big, bombastic, sort of larger-than-life figures who are completely unhinged from the rest of society in many ways and have no idea how the real world works. But again, each one of them, you've got the Arch-Chancellor, the Bursar, the Senior Wrangler, amongst others. All of them are so distinct in the way they act that you're never going to get them mixed up on screen. And they do have various personality traits. Using Arch-Chancellor Ridcully as the main example, he is a very loud, larger-than-life figure who is very simple-minded. He's not sexist or racist or speciesist, but he is brusque and he's rude. He doesn't care who you are, which is an example as he's speaking to Mrs. Cake, who is a medium verging on small, or large, depending which part of the book you're reading, who is precognitioning the conversation. And eventually, he just loses patience, tells one of the other faculty members to give her a penny, and just brushes past her as if she's nothing, because these are wizards. They are part of a more enlightened, higher power. And that's pretty good. You also get, with Windlepoons, who is the dead wizard, a sense of, well, I was 130 when I died. What did I do? And you sort of have almost a critical examination of who they were as a person, or as a shadow of a person for a large part of their life, and how aware they are once they're dead, because they don't have to deal with all the breakdowns of age in the body and stuff like that, and they can see clearly for the first time in years. And the sort of weight of that revelation is actually quite interesting to read. However, obviously the primary point of this book is around Death's growth as a character. And this is where a lot of his humanization comes in, because for the first time ever, he dreams and he has a nightmare and he doesn't know what a dream is. He's heard of what they are, but he's never experienced that. And you get a sense of somebody who's never been afraid or never been hungry, and who finally understands why humans are as they are as the story goes on, and why, over time, when he's gone to collect souls, why so often the souls have tried to cheat him and come back to life. Something he never understood and never worked anyway. And there's an interesting moment at the end where he kind of breaks the rules himself for somebody who helped him through all this. So, especially in the case of Death, this is top-class character work, and the personalities on show, as always, pop off the page more than probably any other book you'll read. This is strong, strong stuff. So in terms of writing style, if you've read Pratchett's works, you know what to expect here. You don't have chapters. You have various sort of footnotes on pages just to tell you a little bit of background information on certain terms within the story. And it's a well-written book. There is obviously critique in here of modern society. Some of the bits will critique, for example, progress for the sake of progress and the cost of that, and how sometimes people look at progress and go, well, why would we want to do that? And then they come round and you have the second guessing of that. You also have an interesting critique, and I find this most interesting personally, of commercialisation. This is shown with the little snow globes that appear quite early on, and what's going on with them and what they grow into. And as somebody who grew up in the 90s, with the massive shopping centres growing just outside of town centres, this feels like very much a precognition of what was going to happen in the years going forward, because fast forward to now 2023, and town centres, by and large, unless they're the big ones, are now dead because of such places. And the critique there is quite interesting, and you always get that. And again, as always, it's not mean-spirited, but it's all put through sort of a comedic lens in many regards. But, you know, this is a book I finished in one sitting quite easily, and I think most people will as well. Got good pacing as always. It does bounce between the two main sort of sets of characters with the wizards and death, and there's a clear delineation in the way that this is presented for both as well, but not in a way that creates a tonal whiplash. So again, I can't praise the writing enough here. This feels like a book where Pratchett had finally got into his stride proper, where I was finding his way like he sometimes got that impression with some of his earlier books. I love this book. So, final thoughts, 5 stars, easy for me. As I said at the start of the review, for me personally, this may well be my favourite of all the Discworld novels. I love the character of Death and the growth that he goes through in this. I think the deranged antics of the wizards always adds fun to any situation. But there's a very interesting critique and foreshadowing here for how the world has actually gone in many regards. And as with many of Pratchett's works, this does kind of have a bit of a warning in here of a almost be careful what you wish for feeling. I like the fact that at the end of the book, Death himself kind of breaks the rules a little bit with permission, but he still sort of breaks the rules that he's always lived by. And actually, you know what? This book actually touched me a little bit emotionally, which is something not many books do. Have you read Reaper Man, however? How do you think it ranks among Death's stories, or the Discworld in general, and is there any Discworld books you'd like me to cover? If you've enjoyed this video, a like and a follow are always appreciated, but not required. I hope you've enjoyed, and I will catch you all next time.